All right, and we're here. Let's change that tile. There we go. Okay. Hello, folks. Sorry about the lateness. We had some tech difficulties, but I'm finally able to have Isabel J. Kim on the show, and I'm very happy to have you. We will do a very quick... Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to be like, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes.
And thanks for, I feel like on both of our ends, truly, Google did not want to cooperate.
Nope. Did not want to cooperate. Let's see. Devo Spice is here. Hello. Underpope's here, but may have to step away in a few minutes. No problem. Conovo Dragon, welcome. And yeah, if you're lurking, we're happy to have you. And yeah, let's get started. This is I Should Be Writing Season 22, Episode 12. I always have to think. I never remember. I don't know, basic numbers. But anyway, hi there. Welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers, and I'm your host, Mer Lafferty. I try to bring you thoughts on beginning a career, how not to talk yourself out of being creative, and occasionally have some amazing writers on to interview, like today, when I have Isabel J. Kim. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I guess I should introduce myself.
Yes, please.
Isabel J. Kim. My novel Sublimation comes out in less than 2 weeks, and other than that, I am a short fiction writer with I've been writing for about, I want to say like 5. I've been writing quote unquote professionally for about 5 or 6 years, and I've won the Nebula, Locust, Shirley Jackson, and BSFA award, and I've been nominated for the Hugos and the Sturgeon Award.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been going pretty well. And
that's excellent. Before we talk about Sublimation, I just want to talk about your short work, because you are a formidable short fiction writer. You won several of those awards you just mentioned I Can Talk. You won several of those awards you just mentioned for the short story, Why Don't We Kill the Kid in the Omelas Hole, which is a gut-wrenching, mind-boggling story. So tell people about that, because they need to go read that just because it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Why Don't We Just Kill the Kid in the Omelas Hole is... Okay, so for those of you listening or watching, if you've ever read The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin, Why Don't We Just Kill the Kid in the Omelas Hole is a riff on that story, because there is a long tradition of science fiction authors writing their own response pieces, and I thought very much like, oh, I get to write one response. It's for 4 people in a Discord server. Surely no one else is going to read it. And then basically what happened is it went like science fiction viral pretty much immediately. And in my piece, it's how should I say it? The problem of the child that is powering Utopia is solved by, well, why don't we just kill the kid to like crash Utopia? What are they gonna do? Get another kid? And it's crazy, dude. They get another kid.
Yeah. If we could go by like the details, how did it go from on your Discord to Clark's World?
So it went from on my Discord to Clark's World just because I run a lot of my short fiction by a small group of my friends.
Oh,
and this was very much like I'm sending this to the 4 guys who are in my Discord chat, being like, hey guys, what do you think of this? Because mostly in a way where I was hoping for them to be like, Isabel, what the hell was that? And they did gratifyingly respond with that. And then I sent it to Neil, fully expecting Neil to reject it, because it is written in a very specific internet cadence.
Yeah.
And it is very much a story. It is, I like to describe it as the funniest story about killing children you'll read all year.
It's hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I'm not even kidding. There are a couple of people who have managed it, but yeah, that's difficult to do. What interests me about it, this one specific thing, there's many things that interest me about that story, but this, I don't mean this to sound rude, I promise, but it's like, I think it came up when Peter Watts wrote The Things, which was the movie The Thing from the point of view of The Thing. and the things are the people around it.
Hmm.
And I think he either won or got a lot of attention for that one. What takes those two stories, and like you said, the other science fiction responding to other things, what takes that away from fanfic and puts it in its own sort of homage respected category?
Hmm. No, yeah, I don't think that's a rude question at all because, like, I mean, okay, so I think in general, science fiction fandom is more forgiving of response stories and has a culture of it just because the fan and professional presence is more entwined than in like other, I think, fields to some degree. And I think what takes it, it's 50% like execution, if that makes sense, where
Mm-hmm.
if you've written something good enough, people respect it on its own. And it is, quite frankly, in my opinion, like 50% like the venue, where if the um market says this is not fan fiction, then generally people will not read it as fan fiction.
Yeah. Um, I know authors hate this question, but I gotta ask, where did it come from? Where did you get the idea to start talking about that kid?
Mm. So I had been thinking about Omelos response stories just because I had read N.K. Jemison's one like pretty
Mm-hmm.
recently to that, and in one of my tabletop role playing games, we had been in a sort of trolley problem situation in it that involved a lot of different trolley problems one after another. And then I also read this article about like Purdue chicken plants and like children who were illegally in the states working at these plants,
Right.
and how every adult who was working at the plant was kind of like, and every social worker and stuff like that was like, yeah, this isn't great, but they need to make money. And I was
Right.
kind of thinking about like, wow, these kids are getting their arms mangled, and every adult who's around here is kind of like, well,
We
it
need
just
chicken.
has to happen. It's this is the only thing that can happen. And I thought that was really first of all shocking that people would say that to a reporter and like admit that up front. And then so I started thinking about like um how Omelos would exist in the modern era. And like if it is not just a thought experiment, I think something I think is really fun is to take things like completely literally. So like, okay, let's pretend that Le Guin's Omelas is not just a thought experiment that she's coming up with for the story, but like if Omelas exists in reality, how does every other person in that world feel about this country existing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love literal responses. That's often how I think. Um, so let's talk about Sublimation, your
Mm-hmm.
amazing, just mind blowing new book. Everyone's very excited about it. And it comes out in 2 weeks, and it is described as severance only for international borders, not
Mm-hmm.
work, correct?
Yes, it is so the I can like I can do the whole spiel that I
Do
do
the
about like the
spiel.
plot. Do the spiel. Okay, so Sublimation is set in a universe where if you cross a border with intention to leave, you split into two. One person stays in the home country and the other goes to the new country. If these two people ever meet and physically touch, they reintegrate back into one person with both sets of memories. Um, our story follows Rose Soyoung Kang, who is going from New York City back to Seoul for her grandfather's funeral. Her other self is waiting, and her other self would love to reintegrate, and Rose very much doesn't want to. So that is basically the first quarter of the book, and I feel like the Severance comp has been really convincing people to pick this one up, so like I can't be mad about it. But it's
Right.
funny because it's based on a short story I wrote that was published in like 2021. So
Yeah.
I keep being like, I wrote it before Severance came out.
I absolutely believe you. It's that I love that. I also know how long books take to write and then
Mhm,
publish, so that's not surprising at all.
mhm.
But like you said, it is a very popular show, so it's a comp
Yeah.
that is going to help you marketing wise. The thing that really gets me about this book is intention. Like you said,
Mhm.
it's like if you're just going off like on a vacation, you don't split, but
No.
it's your intention to leave.
Mhm.
And where does that come from? How did you decide on that part, the intention part?
Well, I wanted it to be kind of fuzzy. The so I wanted the like magical mechanism here to hinge on human desire and the fact that people don't always know what they want until it happens to them.
Right.
Or until they are very close to the thing happening, or they lie to themselves about this is what I want in my life. And so I thought it being hinged, the separation being hinged not just on is the border there, but do you believe in the border, and also do you believe you're coming back, created more problems for the characters and made it harder for them in certain times to like make the decision to go or to stay because they didn't know how they felt. But also like um creating a universe where this like would have definitely happened every single time would have also like changed the world there more substantially than I'd wanted to write that alternate history.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to kind of create that tension between like this, like the splitting happens based on an individual's experience, but a a nation is interested in having strict borders or in having um like how should I say it, like border control that is reliable and not based on the human heart.
Mm. Yeah. One thing you do that I've seen in probably best in Gene Wolfe's book is you don't explain a lot. You know, you're just basically saying I'm going to tell an amazing story and you
Mm-hmm.
guys have to follow me or not, but I'm not going to hold your hand. And I've always been really admiring people who can write like that. Is that something that you feel comes naturally to you, or is that something you do on edit?
Um, I would say 50-50, which I think is a boring answer, but it's also no, but like because I think sometimes it's hard for me to tell what people know and what they don't know because everything is in my head and I'm putting it on the page. And then on the edit, I'm trying to go through and figure out, okay, a story is sort of like shining a light in a dark room. I need to tell you exactly what is in that beam of light, but everything that is extraneous does not need to be included.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like but then also at the same time because I know so much more than the reader, sometimes I get what I err too much on over explaining or under explaining, and that's really what the edit is for. But yeah, no, I also like subscribe to, I think probably because I come from like the short fiction field, very much like you need to be so precise about the information that you dole out because you have so little space that
Yeah.
that kind of translates to the novels. And then like with sublimation, it's
Oh.
very much um like if you think about the implications of the world, then I could have like there are like two more books I could write in that universe if I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like really explore every aspect of it. But then okay, keeping it tight and focused on these 2/4 characters' experiences just to make sure that like the reader is following a story as opposed to an encyclopedia.
Right. Um, so you did mention your short story
Mm.
history, and you clearly, dominated the short story. uh, when you write a short story, people really sit up and listen. What you remind me of John Chu, who I went to Viable Paradise with him
Mhm.
a long time ago, and there was a point where like he was looking around at all of us, going, "Am I the only one not writing a novel right now?" And we're like, yeah, yeah, you are. And then he won Hugo for Best Short Story several years later. So I'm like, well, yeah, he was focusing on the right thing. Also, anybody who's listened to the show and remember the John Chu interviews, John Chu's first novel actually did just come out. So you should check that out. But what made you decide, I'm going for a longer story, I'm going for a larger story? Did you think of Sublimation as a short story and it just got too big? Or did you head that way into novel land fully intentional?
Um, fully intentionally in that, so Sublimation isn't the first book I've written. The first book I wrote, which I can simply not say anything about right now, is the one that got me my agent and is the
Ah,
one that I wrote like before Sublimation. During the first year I was working at the law firm, and so I was I always wanted to publish a book at some point, but it was always until now sort of a backseat driver to the fact that like I was finishing law school. I was trying to start a career. And short fiction is just like you can do it in bite-sized increments in the shorter span of time than you can a novel.
Mm-hmm.
But with Sublimation, the short story that turned into it, I got to the end of the short story and I was like, I would actually like to write more in this universe because it's both A, so interesting, and B, the main character is nuts and she is not going to leave her situation as it is. So that's kind of what happened here.
Why can't you tell us anything about the first book you wrote that got you your agent? Do you not want to talk about it, or is it sold but not announced, or what?
Sold but not announced.
Okay.
So,
Well,
and
congrats.
thank you. So that is a no. I really shouldn't talk about
No,
that
you
one
don't
because
have
it's
to.
not
I was just
announced.
curious whether it was like a, we best not talk about this terrible thing, or if
No,
it's
it's
just I can't talk.
that was a novel that is very close to my heart, and I'm so excited it's going to be coming out. And it also makes way more sense that it's getting published after Sublimation rather than before, because I wrote that one. Sublimation, I thought a little bit more about the viability of it as a this is going to sound so cold, but like as a product people are going to consume, as opposed to a I am writing a test novel that I am not going to get an agent with, but I'm going to submit it places, and then I
Mm-hmm.
got an agent, and so
Yeah.
it's a little weird as in Sublimation, and Sublimation is already pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, I'm all for it. You can sound cold if you're talking about writing a product that people will consume if you actually want that to be your job. So
Mm.
I'm on board with that. Um, let's see. So, your book has cemented one of my unpopular opinions that second person sucks unless someone really good is wielding it. It's just a hard tool to wield. That's
It is.
really
I agree
what
with
it
you.
is. Because N.K. Jemisin did it and it was
Mhm.
just amazing. And now you do it in Sublimation from more than one point of view, but it's
Mhm.
second person. And can you talk a little bit about that? I thought it fit. It was unsettling, and I think that's what you were going for. I mean, I
Exactly.
felt like
Yes,
I need
correct.
to be feeling unsettled here. So tell us a little bit about second person, please.
Yes. Okay. So I love using the second person, and that is just a character quirk of mine because I hate writing the first person. I love writing the second person, but I try to keep the second person to places where it makes sense because the second person, in my opinion, is such a weird point of view that
Mm-hmm.
unless you are using it for specific, deliberate purpose, you are just going to alienate the reader. That being said, if your desire is to create a sort of like alienated intimacy and you want to create that strangeness, it works incredibly well. So that's why I used it for a lot of the sections in Sublimation, because in Sublimation, every single time that a instance, quote unquote, like one of the split selves is talking, it's from the second person, as if it is, um, as if things like for the as if things are very strange and as if it is a memory that the completed person is like viewing later.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, a person who has been reintegrated is from the third person because I wanted that from the reader's perspective to read much more cleanly. So that was kind of my thought process going into this. And it's one of those things where I was not expecting my editor to be all for me doing the second person for the whole novel.
Oh wow.
And yeah, because like I mean it is a weird choice and it's different to write the second person for a 6,000 word short story versus a like 90K 100K novel. Like but I think it works here and I'm glad to hear you say that like you don't usually like it but it does work.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's excellent. I think it's something that like sublimation should be studied as a good use of second person. It's
Mhm.
just because it's so difficult to do. And if I have to sit there and think, why am I reading second person? Then I'm already out of the story and
Mhm.
kind of irritated already. But it's like with that, the way the self is such a core part of your novel,
Mhm.
it just fits really well.
Mhm.
So one thing I've been bringing up a little bit more recently to my guests is, one thing we try to do in this podcast is identify the blockades we put in our own path, whether it's
Mhm.
imposter syndrome or jealousy or something, and just letting you know that that is your creation and you can get past that. So, can you tell us anything that has stood in your way along your career path that sort of speaks to just something you had to get over, like imposter syndrome or something like that?
Yeah, I think the first. Okay, this is actually so. I submitted stories for like I want to say 2 or 3 years before anything I wrote was like actually published.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason for that is that I was not like I wasn't smart about where I was sending submissions, and I was also like self-rejecting beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I had to learn was very much that it is better to send everything you write out there, and also to like like I don't know how to describe this other than like be less like passive about your submission strategy in general, and be less passive about like asking people for things, because that was my problem. And also the other thing being that like I think for so I started writing pretty early, and that like I like writing and publishing, like I would say like quote unquote like fairly early, but it was also one of those things where later I realized that like I should have been trying to get my stories published like when I was 20, because failing earlier then would have taught me more than failing, like would have taught me more and would have taught me faster. And so like part of it is I think just like fail early, fail often, like not to be like a startup bro about it, but also like I think that's advice I wish I had had, and that was something that I had to get over. Like, and thinking that an author is not like I'm not an author, somebody else is an author. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm a writer. I should be trying to like get my stuff out there, and I shouldn't be self-rejecting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is why we cheer for people when they get rejections, because working writers get rejections.
Mhm.
And so if you're getting rejections, you're doing the job.
Yeah,
And
like
so we're all about good failure around here. What can you tell me about your routine? How is that? How do you approach writing in your day to day?
oh god. So right now my routine is truly all to pieces, because it's like 2 weeks until the book comes out, and so
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing a lot of promo and not a lot of working on the second novel. But usually I try to do like okay, so I'm going to tell you like the vague contours of my routine, and then I'm going to tell you the insane way I got this most of the second novel drafted, because I think that'll be funny for people.
Okay.
Um, the first is that usually my day-to-day routine is that so right now I'm writing full time, and I quit my job at the law firm, and hopefully the book does well and I don't have to go back. But that means that even though I am kind of on my own schedule, everyone else in my life is still on sort of the 9 to 5 regular schedule.
Yeah.
So I try to do most of my writing during like between like 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And usually what ends up happening is morning ends up being emails, afternoon ends up being some amount of writing. Then I take like a dinner break, and then either I go back to writing, or me and my partner end up like playing video games or something. So it is a fairly like regular quote unquote schedule. And when I was working as an attorney, a lot of my writing was happening between the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight, or
Oh
on
wow.
vacations, or on like the bus back from like the office, or on the weekends. And I did carve away some of my social time to write, and I would only recommend doing that if you like writing, and if you are forcing yourself to do that, just don't, like life's too short.
Yeah.
Um and the insane way I got the second novel drafted is that I had a schedule. Most of the second novel, now I'm working on a revision, um, was that I was doing a sort of schedule of 2,000 words, 1,000 word, 2,000 words, 1,000 word, and then like 3 days of like 500 words. And the reason that worked for me is because the writing, having 2 very spiky days of high word count, or attempting to get high word count, made the other days feel like a break.
Wow.
And I didn't keep that up for very long, but it did get me the
Bet.
first. It did get me the first draft of it completed. So if you're like me, that might work. If you're not, I would not recommend it, and I would not recommend that unless you are writing full time.
Wow, I've never heard anybody describe it that way. That's interesting. So do you prefer plotting or editing?
Plotting, because editing, some I don't know. I like editing short stuff. I don't like editing long things, because editing long things truly feels like a slog, because it feels like you're never finishing it.
Yeah.
But editing short stuff feels like you can get the whole thing edited in a couple of hours, and it feels like you've accomplished something.
Yeah. We have people in chat. Space Valkyries taking notes for intense drafting ideas. Feels like it might work if the brain cells align for me. Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like
I mean, like,
you're kind of fooling yourself and just okay, I'll give you a little bit of a day off while still writing 500 words kind of thing.
that's basically what it is. Like making the other days feel worse makes the rest of the days feel better. And it's also like it's one of those things where it's like it's an unrealistic amount of words. So if you don't meet it, you don't feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I mean, I am a huge nerd, so I'm excited to hear about your video games, but tell me also like what you're reading, what you're consuming right now.
Right now I'm not really reading anything super exciting other than like I recently what have I been reading recently? I'm reading Kill All Wizards, which I have an arc for that is coming out like the week after my book,
Mm-hmm.
and that is really good and very different than my novel. Um and I'm also me and my partner have been watching like Dropout and watching
Yay!
like the new episode of Game Changer, which was incredible.
Oh, is it out?
Um
Wow,
yeah.
cool. Okay.
Oh yeah, you should go watch the new episode of Game Changer is it's a very powerful episode, let me just put it that way.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, and I've been playing God, like truly like the apex of like nerd games right now, but like Slay the Spire 2, the
Mm-hmm.
alpha. And I've been playing a lot of that. And part of that is that um like when I'm trying to like hardcore edit or draft anything, I'm pretty bad at actually reading anything else because
Yeah.
then I'm always paranoid about what I'm reading like influencing what I'm writing. So
Mm-hmm.
like, and I don't want to sound like other people, even though it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like I don't want to steal somebody else's plot point by accident.
Sure.
Um, but like I've been playing a lot of Slay the Spire, which is a real peak like specific nerd experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's funny. With my first book, it wasn't until I read a review of it where someone pointed out how similar it was to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I was obsessed with when I was a teenager.
Hmm.
And I realized I did not think about Douglas Adams once while
Hmm.
writing this. It was just like so deeply ingrained
Hmm.
that I'm just like, man, I hope nobody calls me out on this because I honestly didn't remember.
I
But
mean, but like there's worse things than being compared to Douglas Adams. Like,
absolutely,
like that's
yes.
actually a win for you.
Yes, I thought so. Yes. But but yeah, I did have to stop writing. I had to stop reading The Expanse when I was writing my first space murder mystery because it was just making me sad. Because
Mm,
and my book was anything like The Expanse, but I just saw like space book, and
hmm.
I had a space book, and their space book was amazing, and my space book obviously was not. So
Hmm.
I just yeah. So
Yeah.
I there are lots of reasons not to read some things when you're plotting stuff out. Real quick, let's talk about you just had a release through Tor Reactor. You had a
Hmm.
short story on Kindle.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about
So
the Perpetual Post.
yeah. So the Perpetual Post is a short story. Yeah, it's a short story. That just came out of Reactor. Like I want to say like literally yesterday. And it is about a how should I say it? It's about essentially a woman who works as a postman for the quote unquote the perpetual post, meaning that she essentially delivers objects at the right time that they are needed to save a civilization from imploding and or like continue the proliferation of humanity across the galaxy. And the it all revolves around her having basically a ship like powered by like quote unquote the relativistic engine, which basically means that as she is in like if you've ever seen Interstellar, it's very much like she is crossing space, but time around her is like going past, and so she is like 22, but she's been around for like 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about her relationship with the AI that runs the Perpetual Post and what the AI did to her home planet.
All right. So you can find that on Amazon, I believe, right now.
Hmm.
Well, you are a current finalist for the Hugo and the Locus Awards. Congratulations. And we'll be seeing you in Anaheim this summer. I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to that. Is there anything you want to talk about that we did not already cover?
Nothing specific other than everyone should go buy my book or else you won't have bought my book.
That's right, exactly. Yes, definitely, by Sublimation. Let me put the note in chat real quick.
Oh, and I guess it's like the other thing is that if anyone has any questions that like afterwards, I'm doing like an r/fantasy AMA
Oh, cool.
on June 2nd. So yeah, I will truly, the book will be out and I will just be typing at my computer all day until I do like book launch stuff.
Awesome. Valerie Valdez says Isabel J. Kim is also a great narrator. Hey.
Yeah, I will occasionally do a narration for like the escape pod and stuff like that, and that is it is a nice break from writing.
Oh, good, good. We definitely appreciate that. So let's see. Do you have any further advice for newbies?
The only thing I've got is honestly that if you just write more stories rather than like polishing one story, and that goes for if you're writing novels or if you're writing short fiction or like anything, it is better to try out a bunch of stuff rather than try and fix the first thing that you've written.
Yeah.
That's I should have learned that when I was like 18, but I didn't. It took me a while.
It's really hard to put aside that idea that is so perfect and beautiful inside your head, and it's so necessary. So where can we find you online?
I am at isabel.kim for my website, and I am isabel.kim on Blue Sky, and I am at Isabel J. Kim on Instagram, and those are basically the places I am most active. I have a podcast, Wow If True, with my co-host Amanda Silberling, who's a TechCrunch reporter, and you can find that wherever podcasts are found, and it is not about writing at all except for the next episode.
All right, and you can find me. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Jasmine. You can find me at merverse.com. If you want to follow the live streams, you can go to twitch.tv/mightymur, and you can get my newsletter and support and get all sorts of new exciting things like early podcasts or ad-free podcasts over at patreon.com/mightymur. And yeah, if you got any questions, email me, mightymur@gmail.com. I'm not going to be here for the next 2 Thursdays because I'm taking time off in May, and then I'm moving the child out of the house in June. And thanks for asking. I'm fine. But thank you, Isabel, and
yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh no, T just rated with a party of 14 and we're about to end. I thought I was thinking of rating T. I'm so sorry, T. Good to see you. And we're going to end off now. I guess we'll go raid Loading Ready Run, and who are doing Creeper World 4. But thank you, Isabel. Thank you for everybody in chat, and y'all should be writing. All right, and now we're done. I'm sorry, T. Your timing was, yeah. I always hate that when someone raids at the very end. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I should keep talking.
The timing was really oof.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank you, everybody. By the way, I'm Mer Lafferty. I'm a writer and podcaster, and I talk about writing on Twitch most Thursdays, 3 p.m. So come in a couple of weeks when I'll be back doing that. And also, I'll put my guest in the chat one more time in case you guys want the hottest new science fiction book that's out in 2 weeks. So, Isabel, thank you so much for your time, and we will do that raid. Okay. And the raid call is just Mer raid and my yay emote, or just say hi and be kind. Thank you, Valerie. Yes, you can get isabel.kim. That's in the chat too. But yeah, we'll see folks in a couple of weeks.